We are on the I-40 corridor today, a 2,500-mile ribbon of asphalt connecting the Lone Star State to the Volunteer State, going all the way to California. But for one woman in March 2000, the journey ended at a boat ramp in Melton Hill Lake.
Found with nothing. No clothes. No ID. No jewelry. She's got about $10,000 worth of high-end dental work and a stomach full from a meal at the Watt Road Iron Skillet. And this is located in Knoxville, Tennessee, near the I-40 and I-75 exit. It's a 24/7 dining stop, and it is a regular place for truckers on the I-40 corridor.
For 25 years, she's been a ghost. But today we're going to look at the most likely person that put her there, which is Bruce Mendenhall, the truck stop serial killer, who's currently right now sitting in a Tennessee prison cell. Is she the missing link in his trail of bodies?
Okay, so we're talking about something that's very close to my house. The lake, Melton Lake, is actually where I typically go for a walk in the mornings when the weather's nice. Where this woman was found is like a little tiny grassy cove covered with underbrush on the side of a lake that really didn't even have a footpath near it where she was found. She was found by fishermen in a boat. She might have been there for a long time. Well, anyway, to get into all the details and all of that other stuff, we've got with us tonight Sue, who is our lead researcher and the one who has looked at the contents of the young woman's stomach and all the other nasty photos that I don't want to look at because I'm a sane person.
Well, hi, I'm Sue from Texas. Yeah, I did look at all those autopsy photos, and boy, they were something. I'm also digging into the serial killer that we've identified tonight, his evidence, and the patterns around him.
And I'm Amy. I'm looking into the killer's hunting ground. Is Our Lady in the Lake on this guy's killing ground?
Okay, so Melton Hill Lake is one of these lakes in Tennessee. All the lakes in Tennessee were in the area where I live were built by the Tennessee Valley Authority. These are results of dams being put up to create electricity and create, flood control and water supply and whatnot. So these are man-made lakes. They're in the mountains. It's cold water. Uh, and from what we were able to learn about the way this woman was left, it seems like, she was found naked in the water, no jewelry, no mark, no identification of any kind. It just seems like, somebody dropped her there on purpose, and the water's cold enough, she might have been in that lake for a long time. There are places in that water system that are very close to the interstate. Melton Hill Lake, where she was found, is not particularly close. But, if you're driving a truck, it's not that far of a trip if you wanted to head out that way. And, with being on I-40 or near I-40 like that, she might have been picked up anywhere at all. That seems to be one of the things that Sue has found out. The FBI has looked into a lot of missing people on the I-40 corridor. So, Amy, did you have some ideas about the gentleman's hunting ground? What was this band's name?
Bruce Mendenhall.
Bruce Mendenhall.
He was found guilty in 2007 of the murder of Sarah Holbert in Tennessee. And he was also charged with murders of three other women at truck stops in Alabama, Indiana, and Tennessee. And he's still under investigation for murders in Georgia, Illinois, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. So um, he he traveled from he didn't leave evidence. He could just get in his truck and go to the next place, and so.
Well, if you think about the logistics, um, you've got the Watt Road Iron Skillet. It's where people, truck drivers are there. People are tired. They've been traveling. You've got prostitutes there. So you've got tired, hungry, vulnerable folks there. And it's only 11 miles from that truck stop to the Melton Hill Dam. Basically, you can listen to 3 songs and you're already there. Mendenhall was working for a company in 2000 that did regular routes through Knoxville and Nashville. And keep in mind, with these truckers, in that era, they could do blackouts on their logs. So that meant that everything was still by hand and they could just disappear off the grid, do whatever they want, commit a crime, and be back on the interstate before the next check-in. Now, with Mendenhall, the things that we need to think about is that he didn't just kill people, Jeff. He tried to make them disappear. Most killers are going to leave a trail, especially serial killers. They're going to leave a signature or something. A struggle, a weapon, a piece of clothing on the victim that could be traced. He didn't want to leave anything. He basically wanted to just leave a void where the human was. So for Our Lady in the Lake, she became a void. And when you think about it, when he was caught in Nashville. His truck was a rolling crime scene. He had gloves, tape, cleaning supplies. He was known to strip his victims entirely, so they had nothing on them, and they were completely nude. And they become a John or a Jane Doe. There's nothing in their pockets. There's no driver's license. Nothing to trace them back to anywhere. Clothing is gone, so they can't trace them back to a Walmart in Texas. Basically, in the first 48 hours, police are looking at all of that stuff. Well, he's taken it, and they no longer have that to be able to start to sift through. Now, Amy, you mentioned that he was found guilty of the 2007 murder of Sarah Holbert. His truck had the blood of numerous other murdered women. And as you mentioned, he's in many states. They're still looking at him. He was convicted in 2010 in Tennessee of another murder of Samantha Winters. And while he's already serving 2 life sentences for killing women in Tennessee, he was just found guilty in January of 2025 in Indianapolis for killing Karma Purpa in 2007. He's 73 years old, and I really don't think that all of the victims have been identified or given justice. Now, many of the victims that they're looking at for Bruce Mendenhall were prostitutes, but not all of them. Some are like what we think of.
I want to interrupt you there.
Mm-hmm.
I want to interrupt you there for a moment. That's one thing that these folks, they always do. And there's a term in this among the police that I've talked to, and that if it's a missing prostitute or runaway or a low value person, they call them the less dead. They're just not.
They're not important.
They don't get the resources put into it.
Mm-mm. Well, one thing with Mendenhall, he was targeting these prostitutes, but he's ventured away from that from time to time. For instance, there was this 20-year-old young lady named Tammy Zawinski, and she was a college student who disappeared in August of 1992 after she was dropping her younger brother off at school. Her body was found in September 2nd, but she was, an average, athletic, all round average girl. Authorities are looking at him for her murder. And just like Our Lady of the Lake, she might not fit the prostitute pattern, but he didn't kill to type.
Well, so yeah, this could have just been somebody who had car trouble, and a
Hmm.
friendly trucker stopped to offer a ride to the next gas station or something, and that was it.
Exactly.
So it seemed like he was very opportunistic. He'd just take anybody that he got a good chance of talking into the truck. So he did his murders inside the truck. Is that how he did his deal?
Sometimes. Sometimes he would murder them in the truck. He would murder them outside the truck. He shot them. And then he dragged the bodies into his truck. Um, One of the things that the police had categorized 300 items from his truck: rifle, knives, handcuffs, latex gloves, as we mentioned, a nightstick, and sex toys. In his truck alone, they found DNA for 5 different women. If
And
you
these
think
were those people that were reported missing, or were these just
they
unknown?
have,
Had they been identified?
they haven't been identified. We know that he's been convicted of at least 3. There are a bunch of other murders. I think I counted up to 10 that they've identified that they think he did, but they don't have enough proof. And it's across the midsection of the United States: Illinois, Indiana, Tennessee, Texas, Georgia. He was all over the place. And when you look at what they found in his truck, I mean, they found blood samples from, I thought it was 5, but it was 10 different women on the trash bags, the tape, and on his clothes. He kept tiny pieces of them, like DNA and hair and clothing, as trophies. I don't know. The Lady of the Lake was killed in 2000, and her trophy was probably in that truck for 7 years. Maybe one of
Well,
those unidentified blood spots is hers.
I think they probably checked that one. I mean,
I'd hope.
they've done a lot of work. The local PD, the Oak Ridge Police Department, and the TBI did a lot of work on this at the time, and they still have it as an open case. So, in fact, they just did some things recently that we'll talk about later. But what gets me, what really surprises me, because when they pulled her out, yeah, she didn't have any identification, but her teeth had extensive dental work. And for a young person, in 2000, and $10,000 worth of dental work is no small thing. I was a person in those years, and I couldn't afford $10,000 of dental work. I
Right.
still can't.
Still can't.
So, uh, what's going on there? Like, so obviously this was a domesticated person. This was a person with a home and some, means.
Well,
But
not to interrupt you, but going back to like nobody knowing who she is, that it does in today's world it doesn't make a lot of sense because now they have the research. Maybe they can't find a parent or a sibling, but they can find a third cousin, great grandparent or something. The DNA is so more advanced now. Yes, it may take months, but why has that? There's I can't see that there's no possibility that if they did the advanced search of DNA, that they wouldn't be able to pull up somebody.
Well, that's what they did over the summer this year. There's oh
Two
God,
different types.
I don't remember the name of the nonprofit, but there is a nonprofit entity that does just this, and they took some DNA samples because her corpse is still at the I think University of Tennessee at the where they have like a crime lab school, and they took some DNA and put it into a database where if you have a missing family member, you can add your DNA to the database, and they will see if any of theirs match up to yours. There hadn't been any results from that immediately, so but she'd been missing a long time, and you're right, DNA has gotten a lot better in 20 years.
Yeah, I just think that, like you mentioned, Jeff, I think that she was probably a stranded traveler, or maybe somebody, her car broke down, and he went out of type and picked her up, and off she went, and
I
she
mean, there's
just
no
became invisible.
there's no proof that Bruce Mendenhall did it. I mean, right? They don't have any blood
Well,
from her or anything like that. But he was in that area, killing people.
it does seem to fit his his pattern because he did leave his victims typically naked, completely stripped of everything, and he would put them in a plastic bag, I guess, and dump them. And a lake is a great place to dump a body. I understand.
Well, especially a
Did
cold
he
one.
did he with his other victims, were they left in water or just on the side of the road or still in bags, or what
Of
was the
various
story there?
places. He did dump
Hmm.
in the water. He did put them in those big trash bins. He'd wrap them up in
Oh wow.
plastic, naked as all get out, and dump them in the trash. So
Hmm.
he didn't have a specific type when it came to where he would leave the body. But when you think about, why would this woman even get in the truck with him, Our Lady in the Lake? He's a normal looking guy. He's been driving a truck, and not to say that all truckers look scary. He didn't look scary. He's just normal trucker. If you saw his picture, he
Well, how did he get caught? Let's talk about that. How did they finally get him?
well, um, at the truck stop in Nashville, there was a detective called Pat Postglione. I can't pronounce his name very well, so apologize that. But he was out there patrolling the lot, and he lived and breathed cold cases. So he was out there looking, and he starts talking to this driver, and he was talking to Bruce Mendenhall. I mean, he looked like a normal truck driver, nothing going on there, but something in him, something in the detective's mind set off an alert, and they got him. That's how they caught him.
So this was a active duty detective, or was he retired or something?
No,
Why was he?
active duty detective.
And he just had a feeling about this one
Yeah.
guy, and
Well, he was
uh,
chatting up people looking for
The yellow truck.
yeah, he was looking for his yellow truck, and this is the guy. He saw his yellow truck, and he started chatting him up. And there you
so
go.
there had been a tip about someone got into a yellow truck and disappeared.
Well, keep in mind that they were trying to solve the murders of several women there, notably Sarah and a few others. And the detective had been looking at surveillance footage the night that Sarah had been murdered, and he saw a truck on the surveillance footage and spotted Mendenhall's truck, and it matched. So he was able to make the tie, said, okay, this is my guy. They arrested him, and what they found on in the truck was a bunch of bloody clothing, um, identification cards, personal effects from for the Indianapolis woman who he got convicted for, and a plastic sack along with blood spots scattered all over the truck. Um, it was even on the steering wheel in his hands. So the guy, for all he was doing as a serial killer, he wasn't that smart about cleaning up after himself.
But he got away with a
Well,
lot.
Yeah, he did. He did.
now how now here's a good question for you, Sue, and there's no wrong answer. How deep into his gross behavior do you want to go? Because a lot of serial killers, I'm not an expert, but it seems like some of them will keep the body for a while, or somebody, or have sex with it, or they keep them alive and have sex with them, and then they kill them. So there's and you said they found, sex toys in the van, in the truck. So what was he doing with these girls? What do we know about that? Has he copped any of that? Have the police, told us any of that?
Well, that's the thing. He wasn't necessarily killing them after having sex with them. So he seemed to just be killing them because he's never given anyone any indication as far as what he's really doing with them. In the case of the woman in Indianapolis, he he admitted to the cop when he got arrested the first time. They were asking him about the blood underneath his fingernails, and he says, "Well, that's from the woman I killed." It's like, okay, dude, you know, why you're not smart enough to clean up after yourself, but you're smart enough to figure out how to kill these people. So I don't know. He never did really say what he was doing with them, and I have not found any detail about him raping them before he murders them. They're killed, but nothing about being raped. Like with Tammy Zawitki, that student I talked about earlier, um, she was stabbed to death, and he shot his victims. But there was one in Indiana that they're trying to tie him to. She was found naked in a snow embankment. So I think he likes the idea, or he knows of the idea of keeping these women cold to try to throw off the time of death. And keep in mind, he had this big old rig. He could throw the body, wrap the bodies up and throw them back there. Or, like with Our Lady of the Lake, wrap them up, throw them in the back of the truck, and drive over the lake and dump them.
Now, when he was arrested, was there a body in the truck?
No.
Or was it okay? So it was
There was just a
so
bunch of blood everywhere
mm,
on the cab.
wow.
You
Ugh.
know, yeah, there doesn't seem to be much history, like what his past history was, except he was married and did have
Really?
kids. Yeah, yeah.
There's just let's okay. I don't want to, dox his wife, his poor wife, but what the heck? What is that life like? What, hey, your husband has gone most of the time. He's just been arrested for,
Right.
many murders.
Well,
I wonder what her reaction to that was.
can you imagine? He was married and he had 3 kids. 3 kids.
Oh
I,
dear.
I I mean, I can't even imagine what went through those kids' minds when they heard about their father and all of
Uh,
this.
Probably. I knew it.
Probably.
Well, it makes you wonder, I mean, what leads a person to just do that and then be nonchalant about it? I mean,
It's
okay.
nuts. It is nuts. I mean, from what I've seen in, true crime stuff, it's like there's a lot of times there's like a head injury
Yeah.
early on,
Or
and
something
something happens.
made them snap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, something made them snap. But I've looked. I haven't seen anything that they had any really much history on him.
Well, that's the big mystery. Why do people do this? I mean, it's not like a natural thing for a person to want to do. It's just picking up random strangers that are obviously, just easy victims. Like, and you said he used a gun sometimes. That shows me like he
Yeah.
wasn't about overpowering these people. It was just, yeah, he
No,
just wanted to kill them.
Yeah.
no. I mean, what I did read with him is that he would get mad at somebody or something, and then he'd just go kill somebody.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know,
Well, you know.
he never really
Well,
provided a rational why he killed people. It was all over the board.
hmm, well, who can say? But
Well, I don't think he was the only truck driver out there doing this. And there was another one too, I believe, out there about the
well,
same time doing the
no,
same.
not just one. The FBI thinks there are many. How
Yeah.
many or what? I know you looked into that, Sue. That like there's like I-40 or just truck drivers in general. They like to pick people up, kill them, take them to some other state, drop them off. That way, and if you're smart like this shithead, and who seems not very smart, but taking all of their clothes off, that does make them
Hmm.
instantly into a Jane Doe. When the police find a naked person in the water, they have no idea who they are. And especially if they're from 3 states away or something, you
Yeah,
just will
they
never figure it out.
no, and at that time, people weren't as connected. The FBI launched what they called the Highway Serial Killings Initiative because they kept noticing this pattern of women being found along I-40. And they identified and arrested at least 25 long haul trucker serial killers. And that doesn't cover all of the other murders that are still unsolved. And it's horrible to say about truckers, because they are the lifeblood that brings us our food. But uh, can
Well,
you
there are,
imagine 25 serial killers? And the guy
yeah.
that we've identified for the lady in the lake is just one of them.
And but there are lots of truckers. Almost every one of them just goes to work and does their job, right? But it
Exactly.
is a good, if you're looking for a way to be a serial killer, at least before they put GPS in all the trucks, it was probably the best job to have.
True.
'Cause
Because you
you
could
had,
disappear. You could disappear.
and your routes would often take you into, the places you're bringing freight are not necessarily, the nicer parts of town. You're going to docks and warehouse districts and things like that, and you can find people there that no one will miss. They'll be less dead.
One of the getting back to his family for a minute, I know that
Oh,
one of the things that he tried to do was blame some of these murders on other people. because they had threatened his daughters he was going to take the fall. Again, not the signs of a rational man, because this, of course, was untrue. Um, but he really never was clear about why he was killing these people.
I mean, it's something I guess we don't get to know. So no, they don't. They're not executing him. He said he's 70 something years old now.
Yeah, he's actually 74 this year. Um, he's serving 3 life sentences now, so they are not killing him. But he was sentenced in Indianapolis and in Tennessee, or Indianapolis and in Tennessee for the other 2. So they're not killing him.
Hmm. Well, oof. I mean, I'm not a giant fan of state sanctioned murder. I don't. It's not a thing I typically support. But come on, if you're gonna have it, I can't think of a better guy. But
Right.
Yeah.
okay,
I'm not a fan of it either, but you've killed all these people. What gives you the right to be fed and have a bed
yeah,
and meals and, you know, I mean, he's got health care.
okay, yeah, it's something not all of us on the call have.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
You know.
yeah, well,
Well, let's wrap this up and think about this for a minute. What's your theory on Our Lady in the Lake? Um, I'm going with, I think it was probably Bruce. I think it was a targeted abduction. It wasn't a random encounter in the woods. I think that she was either at the truck stop to grab a meal, or her car broke down on the highway and he saw her and he went hunting.
I would say I'm like 90% on it being this Bruce character. But there were 25 other ones that have been arrested. This, and it could have been anyone. It could have been anyone. But
Yeah.
it does match what he did. He did like to remove all of their belongings and, leave a Jane Doe, out in the middle of nothing. Not, I'd say 90%. I would pin it on this fella, and unless somebody else comes out and says they did it.
I've got a 50-50. I think I mean, does it fit his pattern? Yeah, but I think it probably fits other people's patterns too. So, was he in the area? Yes, but it doesn't make it 100%. So,
No,
you
you
know,
wouldn't convict him on it, but
right.
it sure looks like him.
So, it's a possibility.
What What's a mystery to me though is that they still haven't figured out who she is, which doesn't make any sense for someone with $10,000 worth of dental work. How do you square that circle? There's if you even if you picked her up
Okay,
in
well,
California.
I just to throw this out there in the air, so I don't know that this would show up, but like people from Corpus, okay, they go to Mexico and get their teeth done because $10,000 worth of work here is 5,000 there. So
All
I can
right.
give you a dentist name in Mexico. You can go to, So would they pull those records? I don't know. Would they pull the records from Mexico? I mean, you don't. I mean,
Well,
I'm throwing that out there because is that why maybe it wasn't done in the U.S. and that's why they're not pulling anything.
it's possible. I mean, they did, with the DNA technology they had at the time, they were able to figure out that, her family history at least is from, what was it, like Alabama, Georgia, or Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, did they find like some distant cousins or something, but nobody really knew who she was. But that's the thing, like it has all she if you look at her, I mean she looks like a middle class girl.
Yeah.
This is somebody who would have been missed. I just don't.
Well, it could have been somebody that murdered her and didn't want anybody to know she was gone. you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the new database they have, if anybody from her family gets into that and says, hey, let's look for her there. I think that's her best bet of being found. I mean, who can say, you know, maybe everybody in her family died or something in some other way, but and it has been a long time. Her parents are probably passed. So,
But you've got to think somewhere there's a friend who remembers this girl with these beautiful teeth. Um, we're all jealous of because I can't afford that kind of dental work. But maybe there's somebody that remembers this girl with a big smile and just they lost touch with her in March of 2000. Who knows? We'll put up an AI reconstruction of the face that we have from the police department. If you know anything or she looks familiar, call the Oak Ridge Police Department. Let's put this to bed and give her some peace.
we'll also need to include a link to that DNA database, the missing
Yeah.
persons database, whose name I can't remember. But I think, maybe you get lucky.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in and listening to us talk about Our Lady in the Lake, and hopefully, someone out there will be able to figure out who she is.
And maybe our next episode will be about something less icky. Amy, have you found any ghosts?
Well, I will tell you. So I did some research on Seaside Cemetery just to see if there was anything out there, and actually, there's not. They said that nothing's ever been reported at Seaside. But one of the things I found interesting is downtown, and I guess I'd heard a little bit about it, but we have some ghost houses downtown Corpus Christi. So that might be my next stop. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Well, I've heard about a very famous witch house that's not too far from me in Tennessee. So I may take a day trip when the weather clears to go check it out. We'll see.
There
That'd
you
be
go.
cool.
All right, y'all. Have a good afternoon, evening, and thanks for listening.
See you next time.
This is an AI generated image of the Lady in the Lake. DNA tests are ongoing. They're getting closer and closer. But if she looks familiar, anyone with information can call the Oak Ridge Police at 865 425 3570.